So far, we've heard of the angel's instructions to Joseph. We've sung of that silent night. The little town of Bethlehem. Beautiful words that we love to sing at this time of year. We've heard from the scriptures, of course, how Mary and Joseph faithfully made what would have been a very long and difficult journey under any circumstances, but heavily pregnant. Who knows what was going through their minds about all that they have seen and heard? Just cast your minds back to the things we've reflected on going through the Advent story here in the church. Then they arrive at that little town to discover that there is no room for them. The Bible says he went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. This is an incredible statement considering their culture. This young woman claiming to be a virgin, not yet married and pregnant. We know, of course, that Joseph wanted to end the relationship before the visit of the angel, and I'm sure we understand that. We know about the visit to Elizabeth from the young Mary. We know of the evidence that God provided to the young Mary as she arrived at her elderly relative to encourage her, to sustain her through this difficult, confusing, however also glorious and tremendous time it may have been as we read it on its face value. And then they arrive here. No room. Now, whatever this stable was, and we can reflect on what that may or may not have been. It wasn't a double room in the Hilton, that's for sure. There wasn't central heating or air conditioning. There was no on-duty midwife waiting to rush to the young couple's side. What must they have been thinking? They would have known of the prophecies, of course, of the Messiah to come. But how could how could they have seen themselves in that? We do that. How do we see ourselves so small, so insignificant, so this, so that, don't have, can't have, am nots? How could they have seen themselves in this story? Yet faithfully and obediently they continued to follow. Step by step, they followed. But what are they thinking? What are they thinking now at this point? Is this how the Messiah, the Son of God that they have been told of, the little babe that Mary is carrying in her virgin womb, is this how it was to happen? Mary, did you know, was the question posed in the opening song in the overhead there before we began our worship. Well, they could have known some of it. They should have. They must have known some of it. Expected some of it. The scriptures told them something. But how could she have known what was coming? How could she have known? How could she have known of the things that he would do? Walking on water, for example, was one of the questions in the song. Mary, did you know your baby boy would one day walk on water? How could you? This is how it is with God. I don't think there is one instance in the entirety of the Bible where God moved in a way that the people were expecting. The way that they had hoped for. The way that they had been predicting. And through the people that they thought were dead certainties. Not once. Neither is there one instance where God moved and it wasn't incredible. Absolutely incredible. The people who were part of it were filled with his joy, filled with his glory. And they were the unlikely, as we've been saying, the unexpected, the little guy or the little girl. Because they were unexpected, because they simply followed his word and let him move in his way, it's incredible. That's how we're able to come to the silent night. That's why. That's why we're able to sing of the dark streets that had no room for him, and yet he was still the light shining in the darkness. Our Advent hymn of the month, it poses a very serious question. Is there room in your heart for God to write his story? All of these people in the Advent story, Joseph, Mary, Zechariah, Elizabeth, Simeon, Anna, and all of the rest, they all had their plans. They all had their ideas of what was going to happen in life. They had it all planned out. They all had their expectations of both for their lives and their religious expectations. And then God came knocking on the door. And they made room. They made room for God. And God wrote his story. And what a story. What a story it was for each and every one of them who made room in his heart. Do you have room in your heart for God to write his story?